This comes as the Trump administration continues his campaign to shake up the federal government. The Inspector General at the U.S. Agency for International Development, that's USAID we've been talking about, they're fired yesterday, a day after his office released a report detailing the negative impact of the administration's downsizing of the agency. Meanwhile, President Trump says he's giving Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency more power over the federal workforce. We have team coverage ahead this hour, including the latest in the legal battle over federal funding. We'll get to that with Danny Savalos, but let's begin with NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake. Garrett, good morning. So let's start with where we just started a moment ago, the return home of Mark Fogel. What do we know about the details of his release from Russia?
Well, Savannah, frankly, very little. The White House says these negotiations have been going on for a little while and that they hope they will be a sign of good faith for negotiations that might ultimately lead to the end of the war between Russia and Ukraine. But this involved a number of officials, notably Steve Witkoff, who's actually the White House's envoy for Middle Eastern negotiations. He's the one who flew. You see him there with the tan jacket, actually, with his back to the camera there at the White House. Flew on his own plane to Russia to pick up Fogel. Now, the Russians have indicated that this is part of an exchange, likely for one other individual, but the Russians aren't naming who that person is and kind of admonished the United States for how much of a show was put on here with Fogel. They seem to want to keep their end of the bargain here secret. So hopefully more information comes out about that today. But for right now, the Kremlin and the White House both aren't talking about what was at the other end of this exchange.
Yeah, President Trump teased also the fact that another prisoner could be released today, so we should eventually be receiving more information. Garrett, as we've mentioned, Paul Martin, that's the Inspector General of USAID, an organization we've been talking a lot about here. He's been fired. It comes after the agency released a report highlighting the dangers associated with a gap in staffing and lack of oversight after, of course, many of their employees were let go and the agency has really been kind of cooled down. Walk us through what led to this move from the White House and what we think this means for USAID moving forward.
Yeah, kind of a don't let the door hit you on the way out sort of firing here from the White House, and who you'll remember in the first week of the Trump administration fired a number of IGs across other agencies in the government. It's not clear, and the White House has yet to respond to our direct questions about this, about whether the lack of firing the USAID Inspector General earlier was an oversight or whether this was someone who they had intended to keep on. But that Inspector General coming up with this one last bruising report about the effects on the agency of the moves that the administration was taking to basically shutter elements of it. I think with the White House's view here is that they're moving the USAID entirely under the auspices of the State Department, that they probably don't need an Inspector General just to handle USAID matters going forward. But again, this kind of one last damning report about exactly what the human and material costs are of shuttering this agency while it's trying to do its work.
Absolutely. Garrett, also, I'm just asking you about it all here. The Trump administration continues to fill out its cabinet. So votes that had been planned for yesterday are expecting them today confirm Tulsi Gabbard, that's President Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence, also Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s nomination for Health Secretary. What do we think could happen today? Are there obstacles in their way that would mean that either of them do not move all the way forward?
Yeah, look, both of these votes looked like they were going to be a lot closer a week ago, but now it seems likely, if not certain, that both of these former Democrats are going to be confirmed to Donald Trump's cabinet, with the majority, perhaps all Republicans supporting. Folks like Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, who had voted against Pete Hegseth's nomination, have both come out saying that they intend to support both of these nominees. To the degree that there are wild cards remaining on the Republican side, they are, ironically, Mitch McConnell, the former majority leader, and John Curtis, who took Mitt Romney's seat in Utah. They've been more skeptical of these nominees and have a bit more of an independent streak based on different elements of their position in the party that could get them to vote no. But that's just 2 Republican no votes. If every other Republican sticks together, both of these nominees would be confirmed without J.D. Vance having to come back from Europe to cast a tie-breaking vote.
Garrett Haake, like I said, covering it all. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.